Today's Gemara is Daf Chav Ches Amud Aleph. We'll begin from Chav Zayin on the very bottom of the page. V'loi shel noshim la'olam b'nei hakavod. Don't leave the coffin of women outstanding forever because of the respect and dignity of women. Amrin Hadoi. We're talking about over here. They used to have them on a bed, so it's visible. So the bodies are visible. So Zoe says, the only time we did that was women who just gave birth, so they are bleeding and it's not nice. Any other women, they can remain there as well, while they can hesped or whatever. Rabbi Loza says, all women, especially when it comes to a woman, her dignity is to be buried straight away, not leave them lying there outside. The Chsiv says, Thomas Miriam passed away, but the cover Sham immediately after death she was buried. For a woman, as soon as they pass away, they're buried. Rabbi says, Miriam says that Miriam also passed away, just like Moshe Rabbeinu, by the kiss of Hashem. Asya Sham Moshe. We learn out from Moshe Rabbeinu the word Sham by Miriam. And it says by Moshe Rabbeinu also the word Sham, so Yom Sham Moshe. And here it says by Thomas Sham Miriam. So why doesn't it already describe her death as Al Pi Hashem? It's not. He conjures up the wrong images by people, so therefore it's a ginai. It is embarrassing. Rabami said, Loma Nisbecha Misas Miriam leParshat Paraduma. Why is the death of Miriam written right next to Parshat Paraduma? To tell you that Ma Paraduma Mechaperes. So you have Miriam at the end of Haloischel Paraduma and Chukas. Just like Paraduma Mechaperes, Paraduma atones. The Teisha says it doesn't talk about cleaning somebody from tumah. That's not a kapara. It means that the Paraduma is a kapara for the egel. For the egel that the Eden worshipped after Matan Torah. So af misas and shal tzadikim b'chapera. So to the death of tzadikim also atoned everyone's sins. Rabbi Loza said, why is the death of Aaron written right next to Big Dekuna? He transferred his clothes and gave them over to the son of Loza. Ma Big Dekuna mechapin, the clothes of Kahuna are atoned for different averis. We had in Marzvachim, af misas and shel tzadikim mechapera. So too, when a tzaddik passes away, it atones for the sins of the generation. That's what we learned. Different degrees in passing away. Meis pisam, if somebody dies suddenly, zui misa chatufa, that's called a sudden death. Chol yamechad, was sick for one day, and then he died, zui misa chatufa, it's a hurried death. And Tesa says he doesn't understand exactly the differences, the nuances between, a sudden death or a hurried death. That's actually a plague. If somebody dies sick for one day and then passes away. Remember, it says, and we'll see later, sometimes it's a blessing, but right now we're saying it's a magefa. Ben Adam, it says there, Ben Adam, Hashem tells Yecheskel, I am going to take from you, I'm giving you that which you desire the most, from his wife, and so on. Baba Gateful. It says, but Daber El Ha'am Babaker, and then Yecheskel said, I will speak to the people in the morning. The Tamazisha Bed, my wife will die that same day. So we see that's one day, and he calls it Magefa. Take away the desire of your eyes through a Magefa. If somebody's sick 2 days, then he dies, that's called a hurried miss again, pushed off from its real time, against hurried. And Gimel, if 3 days, Gara. That means it's like Hashem's upset. Arba, 4 days sick before they die, Nizifa. So being, again, it's being despised. Chamisha, a person is sick 5 days and then he passes away. Zui Misa Kaladam. That's natural death. Abba Chavakro, I was supposed to say, how do you know 5 is natural death? It says Moshe Rabbeinu when Korbi Mechalambos, the days of approach for you to pass away. Hein is one. Chad, because Hein is also is a Greek word. Karbu, it's in plural, it's 2 days, and Yamecha, again, 2 days today, Hachamisha, total of 5. Hein Chad, Hein is one, in Greek, in Lachas, Hein, one is called Hein. So 5 days, that means sick. Now this is questionable because Moshe Rabbeinu, Rashi says in Chumash, wasn't sick for a moment. He says, "I'm 120 years old today. I'm still full. I am still full of my energy, and so on." So I guess Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't exactly sick. The face says Lav Davke, but he was given notice 5 days before that he was going to pass away. It says if somebody passed away at the early age of 50, Zui misses Karis. That's generally known as the death of Karis. Karis, as 50 years old means Karis, you cut off your people. And Chamishim Vishtayim Shon, if somebody's 52, Zuhi Misas Shmuel Harabasi passed away at the age of 52. And Shishim, if somebody passes away at the age of 60, Zuhi Misa V'dei Shemaim. Now, what is the difference between Karis and Misa V'dei Shemaim? Spiritually, there's a vast difference, as I explained Tanya, because Karis means you're actually cut off, you're getting cutting off from Hashem. Mr. Shemaim is just a form of punishment. But also, as Tais another point out, Karis, not only do you pass away, but your children pass away young as well. It says in Pasig, you'll come to me in a box and to be buried, and bekelach is begematria. The word bekelach equals 60. Shivim, if somebody reaches the age of 70, Saber. That's a good old age. Shmoinim, 80 gudas, that means he has strength. It says, Yimei saying the Behem Shivim Shana, the day is 7 days, Yim gudas Shmoinim Shana, and if strength, 8 days. It's difficult to understand this passage. We say this every Shabbos and davening because it begins with Tfilah Moshe, and Moshe lived 120. Amar Rabba says, Rabba, when we say 50 years old is Karis, doesn't mean exactly 50. Mechamishim ba'ad shishim shana. The Karis from 50 through 60. That's Karis. Why don't we count it? Why don't we count it? Because of the honor of Shmuel. If you say 56 is Karis, and Shmuel passed away at the age of 52, people right away say, he was punished. Therefore, we just say 50. Trace has another girsa that 50 is both Misa V'dei Shemaim and Karis, and 60 is Misa Kolodam. And the only difference between the two is whether you use your children as well. Rabbi Yosef, when Rabbi Yosef was 60 years old, but he made a big party, big birthday party. But he said, I make like a Suda Shador, Nafkali Mekaris. I just stepped out of Karis. Abai is a hidden of Lemam because of Shani. Okay, you're right. It's cut as far as the years are concerned, you're no longer Karis. I mean, Karis, you ain't mean nothing more. What about if you die after 1 day, after 2 days, 3 days, 4 days? That's also a terrible thing. 5 days is sick, then it's Misa Kol Adam. So if 4 days are sick or less, that's like a Karis of days. You're right. In the Koit, L'chamia Palga, at least I achieved half. Now, achieved half. It means, so when do you, what do you call it? So he says over here, 60 years old. What do you call it? 60 years old is all the years between 50 and 60 is still considered years of Karis. So following that, all the years of 60 to 70 is considered Misa V'dei Shemaim. So the Chavis Yoy writes in Siman Ayin, it's Shuvah Ayin, that when you reach 70 years old, you're supposed to make a Suda Sedor and make a Shechiyanu. And the Chav Sefer says, best thing to do is make a Shechiyanu, have a new fruit. This way you can make the Bracha Shem Malchus. Others make a Shechiyanu at the age of 60, because Rabbi Yosef said, a Suda Sedor, he's no longer liable for Karis. Ravuna passed away. Peace of suddenly. Rabbanah was singing and discussing tunnel and they're worried. Hey, the Rabbanah worried if he passed away at such a young age, maybe something's wrong with him. We said before, if he dies suddenly, not less than 5 days, it's like Karas the Yoma. When do we say that if you pass away in only a few days, it's Karas only for younger? Once you reach 8 years old, on the contrary, once you reach a certain age, then dying, getting sick for 1 or 2 days is obviously a blessing, not a curse. So it seemed anywhere beyond the years of Misa V'dei Shemaim, definitely from 70 onwards, even the Gemara says Gurus, that's how old Abuna was, 80, but any time after 70, if you die younger, you're sick for less days, it's actually a brach. Amar Rabbi says, how long you live, children, how healthy they are, and how many, it's not really totally his chus, also do with mazel. I'll prove it to you from the following instance. There was Rabba, and there was Rab Chizda. Kavayu Rabbanan and Tzadika, they were good friends, and they were great tzaddik. To prove it, Mamatz was he would daven in the corner and it would rain, or Mamatz he would daven and it would rain. Rab Chizda Choye Tishin v'Tar Tishin lived for 92 years, and the Rabba Choyin Arboyin, and Rabba lived for 40 years. In the house of Chizda, Shisin Chaluli, he made 60 weddings from his descendants. Rabba in the house of Rabba, Shisin Chaluli had 60 levayas from his descendants. Many of his descendants died young. Beirav Chizda was so wealthy, Smida Lekalbi, they gave fine flour to dogs. Well, the meat didn't have to look for it. Beirabba, the house of Rabba, Nama the Sadi Linchi, they would feed the people with barley, forget little of the animals. The Mishtaka still never had enough. And yet, Sabama Rova says, Hani to ask me, Leboy Kamishmaya asked the Abish for 3 brachas. Tarti Yobli, 2 they gave me, Chadala Yob, the one that didn't give me. Chuchmusa de Ravhuna, the smartness of Ravhuna. The Ujjah of Chizda and the wealth of Chizda, the Yobli gave me. We actually learned more before that Ravhuna was also a very rich man. I guess Chizda was far greater. And Avdiv Snosa de Rabba, but Ravhuna, the son called Rabba, I wish I had his humility. Lo Yobli didn't give that to me. But what's he proving from the story? Rab Chizda and Rabba are both equals, and yet Rab Chizda had such a great life, and Rabba had a terrible life. So we see everything is totally a mazel. We had the Gemara Shabbat of Kufn Vav that Eden ain't mazel Yisrael. So what's going on here? So Teza says that sometimes that even though a mazel Yisrael, sometimes a person's luck just changes because of mazel. But in the Gemara there, Teza says that we can change. When we say a mazel Yisrael means that we can change our mazel if we daven. We're not tied down to it. Now, what I don't understand this Gemara is the reason why Rabbah had all of these so that his children passed away and all that was because we learned that Rabbah came from the house of Eli, and there's a curse in the house of Eli forevermore, and that's why he passed away at the age of 40. So and so on. So what's the Gemara doing to putting it to mazel, attributing it to mazel? I don't know, nothing to do with mazel. I didn't say anybody talk about it, but that's what it seems to me, based on what we learned in other Gemaras that we had before, including Shoshana. Second thing is, I once heard or read a beautiful shot. Rabbi asked for 3 things. He only answered 2. Why wasn't he answered also the third bracha? He was given the wealth of Rav Chizda. He was given the brains of Rav Huna, but he wasn't given the humility of Rabbi Rav. Why not? So it says, on the contrary, that's the best proof that he was answered the third one as well. If he would walk around saying, yeah, I was blessed with humility, what kind of humility is that? This in itself was the sign that he was blessed, because he could walk around saying, that's called humility, when in fact he was so humble. So that in itself was a proof that he did get that bracha. So anyway, further talking about death, the Malach HaMavis comes along and kills and puts on death. But so Rav Sa'idi, there was a brother Rabbi, how the Yosef was visiting Rabbi, was sick. Chazda would come and he saw that he was mamish on his deathbed, on his death throes. Tell the Yetzer Hara, tell the Malach HaMavis that when he takes your life to an end, that he shouldn't cause you any pain. Sorry, Rabbi said to Rav Sa'idi, his brother, do me a favor, talk to the Malach HaMavis and tell him not to cause me pain. So he said, you're not a friend of the Malach HaMavis. Why are you asking me? Even said, once I was given over to the Malach HaMavis and his control over me, Mazla Ashgabi, my Mazla can help me. So he said, good, I'll daven, but do me a favor, this Chazali Ma, come to me after you pass away and tell me what happened. He's Chazali, he did appear to him, have a little matzah, he had pain. Had pain, just like when you let someone's blood. And you give them a needle, you extract blood. Not very painful, same thing here. Rav have a Yosef gave him nach. Similarly, Rav was saying before his teacher nach was Chazi, so he come and gave his Rav, he's dying. I'm going to live in my great Tzara. And nach the Dardu, if you ever talk to Malach HaMavis, tell him not to cause me pain. Amalei Ma'alav and Choshu, aren't you considered a Choshu dignified person? What are you asking me for? Amalei, he said to him, man choshev, you think I'm choshev in the eyes of the Malach HaMavis? Man suffered, and who is the person that's suitable to take my neshama away from me? Man rikia, who is there in the top of the heavens that can advocate for me, or who is ready, prepared to do this? I'll do it. Tell me, he appeared to me when he passed away. And he appeared to him, said, he had pain. No different than taking a hair out of the milk. And despite that, The Abe should tell me, Zil Bahu Alma, come back to this world again. Kad Habit, exactly the same way you were. I wouldn't want to. The Nafish basis. I'm so scared of the Malachamos. This is like a little bit of a hint of Gilgul Nefesh, because the idea of an Neshama coming back in this world and fixing up things that it didn't fully adequately do while it was there before is not found anywhere in Gemara. It's from Kabbalah. Here we have a little bit of a hint. If I managed to come back, I was scared about Malachamos. So blood was Truma is Chazaleh, the Malachamos appeared and ready to take his life in the middle of his eating Truma. Look, I'm eating Truma without Kodesh. Isn't that called Kodesh? Well, leave me alone. And what's going to happen is, but if you're going to kill me and I'm holding Truma in my hand, what was the argument about Malachamos? Not only am I doing a mitzvah, but if you're going to kill me and I'm holding Truma in my hand, I die. The Truma itself becomes tummy. And it says the pasuk gets shmishmet as Truma, so you have to guard the Truma, make sure it doesn't become tummy. And therefore, let me be. Malachamos said, let him be. Hopefully, shaita, but a person has a certain time that they have timeline they have to pass away. By the time he finishes Truma, it passed that timeline. Therefore, he didn't die at that particular time. So he wrote hopefully shaita. The time went by and didn't die that long. And Rav Sheshes is Chazal B'Shukah. Rav Sheshes is Malachamos put him in the street. Amal B'Shukah Behemisa. You B'Shukah Behema. You kill me here in the street like an animal. Isla Gabi Beis. Let me go home. Abashi is Chazal B'Shukah. He also appeared in the marketplace. Amal, he says to Malachamos, Itachli Tlas Yemen. Do me a favor. Give me 30 days. Give me 30 days. Why do I want 30 days? I had the Talmudoy. I'm going to read the Gemara one more time. It says, Ashrei Misha Balakan, the Talmud B'Yodi. Praiseworthy, someone who passed away and goes to Shemaim with the Talmud in his hand. We had before a few Emorem Sheish, others who learned Shas every 30 days. So give me 30 days, I'll learn. He said, Misha Balakan, the Talmudoy B'Yodi. Likan is Gematria 101. We'll have a Baruch Hagiga. You cannot compare someone who learns 100 times to 101. 100 is normal, and 101 in those days, 101 was abnormal. I want to have the schus of doing it Likan 101 times. And also Talmud B'Yodei, it's not enough Talmud. It doesn't say Talmud B'Roshei B'Boichai in his head. It's in his hand. I mean, it's not enough to learn, but you have to actually implement whatever you learn. Plus, beyond a 30-day, also the Malachamos is there. What's the haste? He said, look, that your successor is already waiting in the wings. You cannot have two kingdoms overlapping. I feel like even for one hair, the length of one hair. Rav Chizda, when he's about to pass away, the Malachamos couldn't get close to it because he's learning Torah the whole time. A very similar story in Bab Metzia with Rabba, his colleague. Malachamos couldn't get to. He stopped learning solely, so the Malachamos went. He went up. Yossi Ba'arza, we sat down on the cedar tree there in the house. Poka Arza, and the tree burst. And the shus was loud noise. So he stopped learning for 1 second to see what it was. The Yochel, in that moment, he was zapped by the Malachamos. Rav Chia, the Malachamos couldn't get close to again. It's the same reason. When you were learning, which is a holy person, one day he appeared for Chia like a poor person. Also, he went and knocked on his door. Amalei. And he shouted out to Chia, please bring me out some bread. Apikle brought it out. Amalei said, aren't you known for having an achmanis on poor people? Who Gabriel, am I like why do you have achmanis on the Malachamos? I have a job to do, you're not letting me do it. Golile, he revealed himself, and he showed him a scrap that he had that was made out of fire. Amtile Navshes Abchi decided to voluntarily give himself in and let the Malachamos do his job. We'll have the end of Ksubis why Abchi was so special because he was the first one who went around doing Muftzayim, going from town to town and making sure that all the kids have a school to go to and that and taking care of Klal Yisrael. Says the Mishnah. Nashim women, when it comes to Chalamoid, they can sing along and say some of the lamentations or the Hespedim, but they don't clap their hands. This because Chalamoid. Those who are very close to the bed, they can clap their hands. But that doesn't further. Then he continues, Rosh Chodoshim, the Chanukah, we put him, Manas, Tapris, the Anash Chodesh, and on Chanukah, put him their degree lower the Chalamayit. Because a lot of work on them. So those, they not only, they could be man, they can also clap their hands. But all of these days, loy mekaynim. What they cannot do is be mekaynim. Nikvar hameis. Once the person was buried, too late now. Loy ma'anas v'loy metapchus no longer do that kind of eulogies. What's the difference between a ma'ana and a kinnis? What's a ma'ana? She called oinas ka'achol together. And Kina is achas medaber v'kol. Kina is one of them says, and everyone else answers. Afterwards, it says in Pasuk that the women they make all these noises. You teach your women how to cry. The isha, the usa, kina, and a woman will teach a friend kina. So we see there's two different things, mana and kina, two different things. One is they all say together. One is where one says and then one responds. I will also love you, amen. But in the future, will say, Bila Hamavis Lanetzav, death will come to an end once and for all. Hashem will erase all the tears Al Kapani from everybody's face. Taisa says very interesting. Why do we finish with that? So Taisa says because we want to finish Moed Katan on a good note. And furthermore, says Taisa, that Moed Katan is actually the last Masechta in Moed. Chagiga should have been before Moed Katan. And therefore, Moed Katan is the last Masechta, and that's why we want the entire Moed to be wrapped up in a positive note. Furthermore, he says, the next Masechta after we finish the Yom Tovim, Moed will be Yavamas, and it starts off with 15 women tzaras. We have two wives and one of them, and the husband died. What happens? Starts off with a very sad note, the whole Nashim, because it follows on from Moed Katan. So that's what Taisa says. So the Gemara, what exactly do women say? They would say things. The Gemara only brings up part of what they say, but they were trying to say messages. Amar Abraham said they should say, "Va'ilazda, woe is to the person who's going one way direction, going to the basic quarters, not coming back. Va'ilachavila, way was to the package, or way is the security that the neshama now has to go back to this maker." Amar Abraham said, "Nashi, the shechitz of Amr, and the women we should say, Va'ilazda, va'ilachavila." That's what they say. Woe is to Oslo, what goes, and woe is to the one who carries. Amar Abraham says, "Rabbi, and the shechatzi." Now we're going to mention a few things that they said. They said, "Good garma mekava." You take away the bone from I guess the jaws, and the namti maila tichi, the water goes back to its source. In other words, the idea is that the neshama is going back to its source. Go back to its source. Further, they say a chashav person just died. After the kosi tudi, go ahead and wrap around and cover all the mountains. The barami, son of great and son of great people who just passed away. Shield eats the milsa. You should go ahead and get a beautiful piece of linen. The balchoid, the shlimas of the person who lost all of his estate. Somebody used to be rich, became very, very poor, and so therefore, it's I guess it's nice. Now that he passed away, it's like a linen came to him. Others say mean somebody so poor cannot afford to have his own shrouds, should go and borrow from other people and cover him with shrouds. They would say, Roy, somebody's poor, Roy, he ran and he fell on the bridge, and now he has to borrow to cover himself. He has to borrow to cover himself. Then it says further, they would say, Achaga Tagri Azbuni Mibdiki, they would say, brothers, you all you retailers, that they get measured by how much business they do. So in other words, when you come to Shemayim, they can be checked out to see if you're honest and your integrity when it came to the world of business. Then what it says, Rabba says, no, she's he died like everybody else died. Somebody's very, very poor. So he died like everybody else died, and full, but more. He had a lot of tzaras in his house as well, all kinds of sicknesses. He had a loan sickness, just like interest on a loan. In other words, a normal person pays the loan right back, and a poor person continues paying and paying and paying. And the same thing over here. He quotes a pasuk from Mishlei, pretty extraordinary pasuk. The pasuk says, "Toiv laleches, it is better to go. El beis Abel, it is better to appear at the house of Avelus, and rather than beis Mishnah, to go to a house of Chasana." As it says, the pasuk kasher soiv kolam, that's the end of a person's life. V'achai yitin alibin, and the living will apply themselves and try to learn from the person who passed away. And as far as we're right, the reason is by a person is born or young, you have no idea how they're going to turn out. Once a person passes away, you know exactly how they turned out past that. So therefore, Terlech is a base Abel. Says further, things that pertain to death. The Yasba, you'll be remember, whatever good you do when somebody else passes away, it will be reciprocated to you. If you eulogize others, they'll eulogize you. The Yikva, you could end if you bury others, they'll bury you. The Yitain, if you carry others, Yitain will carry you. The Yodel, Yitlun, if you cry a lot, they'll cry for you. You get on me, the Lo Yodel, if you don't pick yourself up, you're not arrogant, Yitlun, people will then say nice praises about you. It says, they'll say good things about you, come up here. From where? From those who are low, those who are humble. Yeah. So you want to further? Then we're learning. Shmuel's children died young. Not before elders came in to console and Otafra basically Oh no, Otafra said, "Do you should know Shachachim Godlu that the Otafra warned everybody. Shmuel's an unbelievable Chacham with Baki Goddess. He also knows Haggadah. He's Ayachonis Echad Mekem Divrei Chaveda. Don't go in and hack up what he says. Whatever he says is right. I'm going to give you said on I want to be the last one. Pastor Shmuel first introduced himself when he said, and he said about himself, Rabu Avanoisa, the fact that I must have committed so many sins, Takvu Avela, therefore caused my Avelas to happen so close in succession. Therefore I'm causing my rebels to keep coming back to me to Menachem Abu. Pam Rishonim Vishnia, once and again. Then Rav said, Rambam, he said the pasuk, Moshe said to Aaron and Elazar, don't, even though David passed away, don't show signs of mourning. But then he said, it said over there that everyone, all your brethren are going to cry about this terrible event, the tragedy that just occurred in the Mishkan. He only did one mitzvah they were doing there in the Chanukah the Bais. They brought back the blood at that time, that occasion. Your children, that were such great tzaddikim, Klal Yisrael's crying about them. And then he said, they all eulogized him with Kavro, and they buried him. He's talking about the son, Yeravam Barasha, who was the first king by the 10 tribes of Israel, had a son. And it says there that all the Eden are going to mourn his son. And why? Because he did something good. It said, because of the Ben Yeravam, the son of Yeravam. So he also did one good thing. We'll soon see what it was. The Chsiba, it says, he did one good thing. And Klal Yisrael mourned him. Surely your children are great tzaddik. They did a lot more than just one thing. Everyone is mourning them. My Davatay, what did Aviyah, that's what Rabban do? We set up sentinels all over the country to make sure that nobody travels to Yerushalayim during the 3 Regalim. He didn't want them to go there and see, and perhaps they'll remain there. They'll make ties with the people there. So he closed the borders, and what Aviyah did was his own border that he was manning, he reopened. He just left his post, and he himself went over Regel. That's one. The first one is that he personally went over Regel. The second one was a little more than that. He canceled all these Parasais, all of these sentries standing there. Prevented Eden from going over Regel. So your children are greater than that. I said, Thomas. He said that told Tzidkiyahu that you're going to die in peace, and And also, they're gonna be by the meaning was by Jewish kings that everything, all the possessions were buried with them or burnt. And so, the same way that all your ancestors, your predecessors, who were kings, what happened to them was what happened to you. Also, let me say, all he did was when Yirmi, after he wrote Kinnis, there was tossed into the cement, the pit, and Yitzchak went and rescued him. Surely, great men, surely. Now we give the answer. Remember, he said, it says the Mashiach will come. Mashiach Yisrael, he passed away. We had this Megillah of Gimel. By Yom on that day, Yitl HaMishra B'Shalayim. We said a terrible, eulogy in the entire Yerushalayim. Kimisma, just like the eulogy that Hadriman, the biggest Megiddo, and Hadriman in the valley of Megiddo. And no one knows what's talking about. Who's Hadriman in the valley of Megiddo? It not been for the Targum, that pasuk. Would not have known what's going on here. At that time, they added the Hesped Shalayim, Kimisbet the Achabar Imri, just like the eulogy that they gave to Achav. The Kotl Yossi Hadriman and Bartava, it was cut down by the king of Ammon. Achav was cut down, and there's a big eulogy then. It's a double eulogy of Yeshio, who was such a great tzaddik by Ammon. The Kotl Yossi Pare Chagira, the limping one, killed him big as Megiddo. We already had that before, that he didn't consult the Kohen Gadol before he went to war. And it wasn't even his war. Pare was just passing through his land to get somewhere else, and he decided not to let him pass through. Ma Achav Mel Yisrael. Madach Achav, the Jewish king, also the Rechad, he did only one good thing to it. The Chsiv, it says, the king was standing in Merkava. Surely the children of Ishmael, surely he now what was the one good thing that he did? The one good thing he did was that after he was dying, and literally he was dying, he decided to stand up on his chariot so the soldiers shouldn't realize that he was dying, so that they shouldn't be disheartened and discouraged and turn and flee. And therefore they kept on fighting the war to beat these Ammonim. And that was a great, courageous thing he did. So surely of Ishmael's children are great tzaddikim, surely. Thomas said by Tzidkiyahu, he will die in peace. And yet, it says that he blinded Tzidkiyahu. What kind of peace is that? Look at the positive side. Because it died the day before he did. So that is the blessing. I'll gather you together with your ancestors, and you will pass away, but show in peace. It says they threw arrows at him and turned him into a sieve. They turned his body into a sieve. What kind of shalom is that? He was still delighted that the base of Mikdash was extended and it wasn't destroyed in his lifetime. Menachem have to wait for the Oval to start the conversation. And it says, afterwards, Pasach Eve, as Piyuv Hadar, first Eve started the conversation, and only then, Vayan Eliphaz at the money, his friend Eliphaz at the money responded. As looking more in Babas, first payday, he had that all he had left in the whole world was just his friends. Amr Babu said, Menayim lo Avol Shemeitz V'Rosh. I know an Avol sits ahead of the table. Shemar, it says in the Pasuk. It says, what is it? Evcha, Darka, I'll choose their ways. I'll sit at the head of the table. You say it. Table, Eshken, Kemelah Bagdu, like a king with his troops. Kasher Avelim Menachem, like Avelim that are being Menachem. So we see that an Abel sits at the head of the table. He says, Ve'eshev Rosh. Yes, the Gemara said, Yinachem Achrim, on the contrary, Avelim Yinachem, that others console the Avelim. They're the ones that sit at the head of the table, not the Abel himself. Or Nachem Yitzchak, don't read it, even though we say Yinachem, but the wording itself is Yinachem Ksiv, the one who's receiving the condolences, he sits at the head of the table. Mazuz Ramamocha, he said with me, is that Marzach Suruchim, that the Mar, the one who is bitter, and Zach is sort of a bit confused. Suruchim now suddenly becomes the head. Marzach Nasasar Suruchim, the Marzach that's referring to the Oval, is the euphemism for Oval, is Nasasar Suruchim. It comes off the Suruchim, sits ahead of the table. How do you know that a chassan from sitting ahead of the table? I know a chassan I know a chassan should sit at the head of the table. It says in the pasuk, that Chosin, just like a Chosin is Yechayin Pe'ed. Just like a Chosin, they should, the Yechayin Pe'ed, they should give honor to his splendor. And Ma Kohen Beresh, Kohen is always the first. Av Chosin Beresh, Chosin is also the first. And Hanel Kohen is the first. The Kohen Gufin al Hayin, no Torah Bishmo. The key dash toy is in the process that you should sanctify a Kohen. The Chodav should be Kedusha. If Tayach he should be the one getting the first Aliyah to open up first. To first Aliyah Levarich Rishon, he should make the bracha first by benching. He should honor him. Lead to money of Rishon. The table, he should get the best portion. Case has a discussion whether the Kohen is allowed to take it or whether you have to allow him. You have to give it to him and allow him to take it. Another hand, a Kohen, maybe because it's by right that he can take it, therefore nothing wrong with him taking it first, or at least he can express his opinion. I like that piece.